Okay, so what we've seen so far is that we can now actually allow the user quite a lot of control over exploring the data, but so far we've only dealt with the daily data, the daily sales of our products. We can also do this for the summary data. So this is going to allow us to build in a dashboard for the summary data by building bubble plots for comparing three summary variables. So the user decides what summary variables are by giving the user the option to pick three different summary variables. The user can choose which variables they want to look at. Okay, and then what do we need to do? We need to our code, our function that creates the plots needs to know what the user's three variables they've chosen are, which are going to be called variable X, Y, and Z. And then it needs to calculate the appropriate bubble sizes exactly as before. Okay. And then the scatter plot is pretty similar to before. It's just that now we're dealing with visualizing the summary data and not the time series. So pretty much the only difference is that we're now using the summary data frame and not the and we've also got the size set to bubble size rather than the time series data. The bubble sizes, here are all normalized. So I've normalized that elsewhere, and then I'm normalizing it here. I'm taking the summary data, I'm normalizing it by dividing it by the maximum value of the summary of that variable. So whatever one is going to be the thing determining the bubble size, I'm normalizing it by dividing it by the maximum value, and then I multiply by 200 to get some scaling for the bubbles. The controlling code is similar to what we've seen, except that now we've got three drop-down lists, these three widgets, these three select widgets, and each one has different variables that are available. The variables being the price and the product, price, profit, cost, total sales, and so on. And this time we set the initial value. So previously I set the drop-down list initial value. I just left them as they were. So I gave it a list of products, and so when the first scatter plot was displayed, it was product A against product A. Here I'm actually setting the initial one to 0, 1, and 2. So I'm picking three different variables as the X and the Y and the bubble size. So the chart you get looks something like this. Let's run that. So there's it's running. There's the data frame, the summary data frame as before, exactly as before. And there's the chart, price, profit, sales, and that gives us that chart. And then the user can select the X and the Y. And in fact, that's one we've seen before: marketing versus sales versus. Can't remember what we put on the bubble size, but something like that. Okay. As you can imagine, though, the bubbles can be, maybe the size can be a bit small, a bit big, because I've just multiplied by 200. Although I normalize them, which is a help, I'm still just creating bubble size by multiplying by a fixed scaling factor of 200. So what we can do is add a slider for the user to control the bubble size. So we pass in the value from that slider, and then here I've decided to use an exponential function to increase the bubble scaling. So as the bubble size goes up, then this gets increasingly large, this scaling number, because it's done exponentially. The controlling code is similar to the the previous one, except that now we have a bubble size slider, which we add to the page and we watch it. So every time you add a widget, basically you add the widget and then you have to watch it. But often you don't necessarily need to change the code that updates the chart. You're just adding another watch that calls this function that calls the code that updates the chart. Okay, let's have a look at, so there it is. Let's have a look at that. So there's my 4 widgets, the 3 selections and the bubble slides, and there's the code that updates the row. So again, that just gets the values from the 4 widgets. So the values from the 3 drop downs and the slider, and then gets the summary plots according to that, according to how those things are set. Okay, so you can see I can change the bubble scaling. That could be quite useful, but it's exponential. Going from 7 to 8 is quite a big change, and going from 8 to 9 is quite a big change, and 9 to 10 is a big change. You could make that linear, but you might want to then make it a longer scale. What else can we see? I think that shows you the bottom bit of the chart is now of the dashboard is now nearly finished. We've got this set of summary variables that we saw in the lecture. Previously we were able to use bubble charts to look at 3 variables all at once, and we can do the same thing now, but now the user gets to choose what the 3 values that they're looking at are and what the bubble sizes are. Okay, let's finish that video there, and then we'll finish off by looking at the dashboard as a whole.